Hi, I'm Jeff Murrow. I want to welcome you to True Texas History, where today we are going to deal with the Battle of the Two Villages. This is one of those kind of obscure engagements, but it's quite fascinating. It happened in 1759. Now, let me go ahead and give you a little bit of background. The main character that we're dealing with is a Colonel Diego Parilla, and let's see, what was his middle name? Diego Ortiz Parilla, who was a Spanish officer, of course, born in Spain, and he had some experience with Spanish military matters. Now, there's some debate as to whether or not he had fought against the Moors or whether he gained his military experience in Cuba. Either way, he was an experienced military officer, and he was brought by Spanish authorities to North America to go ahead and conduct some operations. Now, in some of his early operations, he was successful in his fighting against local Indian tribes, so much so that he was made the governor of Sinaloa. You could jokingly say, it was the first Sinaloa cartel, but that's a bad joke. But Colonel Parilla, apparently he was quite ruthless in terms of his tactics. And some of his tactics even wiped out. He was known as the destroyer of the Seri Indians. Apparently wiped out this whole tribe, and it earned him a place in some of the history books there. And with Spanish authorities, he was seen as somebody who got things done. Now, he conducted an expedition on into Texas about the time that they were establishing the San Saba mission. He thought that the San Saba mission was in a bad place and that bad things would happen. And sure enough, they did, because the Comanches went ahead and conducted a raid on the San Saba mission, and it was pretty rough. For several days, the mission was under siege. And the Indians literally went building to building, burning them down. Would burn one, then another, then another, then another. Some historians refer to it as the San Saba massacre. They didn't kill everyone there. Some of the people did manage to survive, although it was pretty rough. He came up there to investigate, and he was ordered to go ahead and put together a campaign to punish the Indians that were involved in the activity. And this is where the battle comes in. He puts together a force, several hundred men, and head on into north central Texas, out there near Spanish Fort or Menard. He captured and destroyed one Indian village and was on his way to another. And this is where the Battle of the Two Villages occurred. He comes upon a site, and there before him is something he had never seen before. Although his force had several hundred pack animals, they had 2 brass cannons. They were loaded for bear. They come upon this clearing, and here are Indians behind a stockade. You have walls up, 6,000 Indians, and in addition to the stockade, they're flying the French flag. So we were looking at an international situation where you have Indian forces that had been trained by the French, that were standing up against Spanish authority. Now, the Spanish land claims and the French land claims, they were poorly defined. Of course, each one, claimed it and they say, oh, this is in the name of Spain, this is in the name of France, but they never settled their border. So they were always fighting, and there were a lot of colonial wars going on at the time, and this was one of them. And it was a frightening sight. It's frightening enough to run head-on into Comanches or other tribes, but when these people have stockades and forts built, that's even more intimidating. Now, in launching his attack, because the battle lasted about 4 hours, he was blown away because the Indians were attacking him using European techniques, and he saw at least 14 Frenchmen leading the Indian forces and telling them what to do. And there was one Indian chief who was wearing white doe skin, had a red plume in his hat. And, it would have been quite a sight to see. But the Indians in this case went ahead and bested Paria and his force, so much so that they had to leave their cannon behind and retreat. And they retreated back to San Saba, and they were defeated quite handily. Now, Paria does not exit the historical scene at that point, although he has been experienced some shame at the defeat. He goes ahead and manages to redeem himself through some exploration cartography activities. And in fact, he becomes the main cartographer who laid out a lot of the area between La Bahia, the Goliad area, all the way down to the Rio Grande, Mustang Island, Padre Island. A lot of these things were mapped by Paria later on. And he still maintained his temper when he was removed from his office. He got upset and sold everything that he had just recently, it's almost like he, what's the word for it, remodeled the whole house, and he saw to it that all the remodeling work was sold so that his successor did not come into a fully remodeled home. A little bit of a temper, but that was the Spanish back then. Now this engagement at the Battle of the Two Villages is the largest military engagement that happened in the Oklahoma area up until the war between the states. So it was a large-scale operation. 6,000 Indians versus several hundred Spaniards. Even though the Spaniards had superior firepower and superior training, we suppose, they got beat. Numbers ended up beating them, and this was a significant victory for the Indian forces. So this is one of those chapters of Texas history that's worth investigating, and did make an impact. And I went ahead and did this as a special request, because this is one of those corners of Texas history you don't hear much about. Hope you enjoyed it. Feel free to leave your thumbs up and leave any other suggestions, comments, questions. I'll be glad to get to them. So until next time, this is Jeff Murrah wishing you vaya con Dios, my friends. Goodbye.